So my favorite pastime is watching these brain dead left-wing media takes, which to me just proves, and I can see this not because I'm smarter, but because I don't live in an echo chamber, that the problem with critical thinking is not a right-wing thing. I believe big part of what's been, and it's not the entire thing, a big part of what's happening in the right-wing media or in the right is they've been so brainwashed and manipulated by right-wing media and right-wing influencers that a pretty solid alternative reality has been created, right, that they exist in. The only reason why the left is not as delusional as the right is now, contrary to what Ben Shapiro would tell you, is because the left-wing influencers and the Democratic Party have not been willing to treat their followers the way the right wing is. But if the left-wing media and the Democratic Party were doing to the left and liberals what the right-wing sort of ecosystem is doing to their people, I'm convinced that the left would be similarly delusional as what we see on the right. Case in point, I was watching a video with Adam Mockler and my best friend now, Destiny, with his podcast, His Way Out of the Situation strategy he's using right now, which is absolutely just completely lame. Adam Mockler is sort of reflecting on what happened with the last election, and he points out how, constantly calling Trump a convicted felon, that they thought it might be a big own, and it looks like it actually didn't work. It backfired. Every time they were saying that, it was actually like they were promoting Trump. So brain dead. After over 10 years of this, they still don't get it. It's not about calling him a felon. It's not about calling him a rapist. It's not about any particular specific thing. What they're missing, and I don't know how many decades it's going to take to understand this, is that the people who support Trump and vote for Trump live in an alternative reality, right? So it doesn't matter what you're saying about Trump. Anything you say about Trump is going to be converted, right? Before it enters into their reality, it's going to be converted into either a positive or that it's all lies, right? So it's nothing particular about the specific, him being a felon. Anything that Trump did, right? Anything that he did or does, and you correctly attribute it with some kind of adjective in terms of how you refer to Trump, Trump is whatever. Doesn't matter what it is. See, the thing about it is they still don't understand that we don't live in the same reality, right? You're in one universe saying and doing things, and then you're confused why people in another universe that can't even see you or hear you, you don't understand why they're reacting in the way they are. They're not reacting to you. They're not seeing you. They're not hearing you. You don't exist. What exists to them is what's in their universe. And what's in their universe is painted by the right-wing influencers, the right-wing media, the Republican Party, the conservative thought leaders. They construct the reality, right? So any crime that Trump does, you will see it. You will understand it. You'll be outraged about it, but they won't. Because the right-wing influencers will, and anything Trump does, anything he does, actually it's a lie, or it's a deep state doing something, or actually it's a good thing somehow, or everybody does it, or Biden did the same thing, right? Anything that you put out there, what you're doing is you're talking to liberals. When Adam Mockler, Destiny, Brian Tyler Cohen, David Pakman, when you guys post your videos and you say whatever stuff you're saying, you're talking to yourself in some ways. The people in your universe are your viewers, right? Left-wing people, liberals, right? Progressives. That's who is in the same shared reality, right? So when you say stuff, they're the ones who understand what you say and they're hearing you. The folks on the right, are you listening, Adam Mockler? In 25, it's been 10 years, you still don't get it? The folks on the right, they don't hear you. They don't see you. You don't exist. You are the caricature that Ben Shapiro has manufactured of you. Right? You're all like a bunch of crazy liberals with your blue hair and your trans this and trans that and whatever. That is what they see and hear. So it's not about calling him a felon. Anything you call him, anything you say about him, it only exists. It can only be heard. It can only be reacted to your universe. In their universe, it will be a different. It's like the multiverse, right? Maybe in this universe, Superman is a good guy. In the other universe, Superman is the bad guy, right? So you're looking at all the great things that Superman is doing in your universe, and then you're wondering why people that live in a universe where Superman is a bad guy, why they don't like him. You're sitting there, Superman just saved all these children, and look what Superman did, he did all these wonderful things, and yet these people, they hate him. Why do they? They hate him because in their universe, Superman is an assassin that's killing babies, not saving them, right? So if you don't even understand the gravity of the situation that you're in, there's no hope of you being able to win, right? You don't even recognize that they're not in the same universe with you, which is a fundamental problem. Then how can you strategize about how you can cross into their universe in an effective way to where they do hear you, right? They do recognize what you're saying and realize the things that you see. And the latest appearance on Tim Pool's show by Luke Beasley may seem like it's exactly what I'm talking about, but that ain't it. As I made a video where I talked about how, just weak tactics where they're so attached to the Democratic Party that they allowed Tim Pool to derail the conversation talking about what Democrats did in the 60s. Listen, man, these guys have AK-47s, M16s, shotguns, and you guys are out there with some samurai blades, pretty sharp blades, and they look real good. And you guys have some really slick moves, right? Some samurai jump flips and all kinds of like Jackie Chan type. I mean, it is impressive and, it is like top notch what you guys are doing, but it's a gunfight, right? So if you're going to go in the lion's den with all these predators like Tim Pool and whoever those clowns were on that show, you can't come in with knives, man. Knives are you coming in with the handicap of defending the Democratic Party. Like I said in that video, fuck the Democratic Party. You go in the lion's den, you are there for the American people, right? If you want to fight and win, you need to stand with the people. Fuck the Democratic Party. Fuck the establishment, right? Your only focus should be fighting for the American people. So they want to go and talk about, well, the Democrats did this. Tell them, okay, who cares? Let's stay on topic. Is Trump a fascist or is he not a fascist? Can you explain to me Trump's actions, right? But you went in there with a handicap, right? They have safeties off, right? Full auto. And you guys sitting there with your Jackie Chan blades. I mean, they look good. Luke Beasley doing his backflips. I know he worked hard on it. That's not it, man. If you're going to go in the lion's den, you need to be ready to spill blood. Proverbial, right? I'm not talking literal. Peacefully, mostly peacefully. And then beyond that, should you even be in that lion's den? I understand it's a little complicated because it seems like there isn't much gradients. On the left, you've got a lot of gradients, right? You got, liberal media, and then you got a good progressive media space, and then you got the more far left folks. On the right, it seems like there's no gradients, right? So, if things were flipped and I was a conservative trying to appeal to the left, I got choices. I could focus on liberal media. They're closer to my ideology. The closest to my ideology would be the liberals, right? If I want to go a little bit further, I could maybe try and talk to the progressives. They would be kind of reasonable if I approach them in the right way. But I'm not trying to talk to far left people. If I'm a conservative, I'm trying to cross the aisle. I'm not really spending a lot of time. I'm not saying I'm not going to talk to them, but I'm going to spend most of my time talking to liberals and progressives, right? But what's the equivalent for you guys who want to cross the aisle and appeal to people that like Trump? What's the equivalent of appealing to liberals and progressives? That's a question that you should be answering, right? If you're trying to be strategic and you're trying to win, and you're trying not to be a bunch of bumbling idiots stumbling your way into further failure, then you need to be extremely tactical. So these are questions that you should be asking yourself. What would be the equivalent of you doing the most likely to succeed plan of conservatives talking to liberals and progressives? What's the equivalent on the right? You need to talk to the people that are most likely to be reasonable and hear you out and who have not been brainwashed by some of the best propagandists in this country, right? Why are you guys spending so much time trying to appeal to audiences of people that have been listening to day in and day out that you guys are socialists, communists, and you're trying to destroy the country or whatever? Like, this has been fed to them for over a decade now. And you guys think you're so good that you're going to pull those people out? You're going to completely ignore just normal people, regular people who not online every day, who, when it comes to the election, they vote based on party lines, or, they're more conservative leaning, and they might have heard some stuff about some trans stuff that concerns them or whatever, but they're not really brainwashed. They're not in it like that. Why are you not talking to those people? The people where you have a realistic chance of appealing to. Why are you going to the people that will be the hardest to convert? I mean, imagine for a second. Let me just give you a little bit of perspective, right? Because sometimes it's hard. We look outward all the time. We don't look at ourselves. Let me give you what you're doing. Let me flip it. Imagine if Ben Shapiro was trying to appeal to people on the left, right? He thinks that his ideology is the correct ideology, and he's trying to appeal to them. Now imagine if he spent a lot of time going on like communist and socialist shows. Doesn't talk to liberals, doesn't talk to progressives, he goes straight to communists. What are the odds that he's gonna have much success doing that? And why would you have success doing that same strategy? Does that sound dumb to you? Because that's what you're doing, right? Could you imagine Ben Shapiro trying to convince somebody that thinks that the police should be abolished, literally, trying to convince them of like his conservative ideology? Stupid, right? Well, that's what you guys are doing. Right, but you get at 25, Adam Mockler says, well, it looks like calling him a felon did. Of course it didn't work, because they're not hearing or seeing you, right? What they're hearing is they're just lying and it's a deep state and they're just trying to interfere with the election and blah. I mean, come on, man. Why would calling him a felon matter to people that live in a universe where it is understood 110% that it's a lie, he's not a felon, it's election interference? That is what they're hearing, that is what they believe, that is their reality. Why would something in your reality affect people who aren't living in your reality? Brain dead. You love to go interviewing Trump supporters and showing how stupid they are. And the kind of people that you interview at these rallies, they are stupid. But so are you guys, right? The main saving grace, again, you don't have this toxic media environment like they have on the right, I guarantee you, if the left-wing media folks were as savage as the right, you guys will be so clueless, you'll be so disconnected from reality. And you are on certain issues for sure. But you look at the right and how they're so disconnected from reality. Listen, man, your critical thinking skills are not that much better than your political opponents. And that shouldn't be surprising to you. You guys are not superior human beings. You're not from another planet. You're not from another country. You're from this country. You went to the same failing schools, right? That really no one's talking about. The right wing is just distracting with nonsense about trans this and CRT. They're not talking about getting better math teachers and better science teachers and talking about the curriculum in terms of, we're not teaching enough or whatever it is, right? We need more tutors. They're not talking about making the students smarter. They're distracting with culture war nonsense. But what is the left doing? Is there a big movement on the left that says like, hey, our schools need to be better? Like, let's go and protest and push for more critical thinking, teaching kids about how to manage their finances. And like no one's really pushing for a better education system, right? So therefore, we have the same failing education system that produces people that are so susceptible to manipulation, hence MAGA. And you guys on the left, you liberals, you have the same issues. It's just not shown as much because again, you're not being taken advantage of to the level that the right is. You're definitely being taken advantage of, but not on the level they are, right? There is no big left-wing movement that's talking about Martin Luther King is coming back and thousands of people traveling across the country to go see Martin Luther King, right? There's no left-wing Pizzagate, right? We don't have a left-wing Alex Jones talking about gay frogs. But if we did, I'm sorry to tell you the truth, you guys would be just as lost, manipulated, and brainwashed as the right. Not literally, because there's a reason why certain people are attracted to conservative ideology versus left-wing ideology. There's a difference in terms of their personality. So there's going to be some level of difference. But in general, we don't really teach critical thinking in this country. So why would the left just sort of naturally be better critical thinkers to a massive degree? To some degree, perhaps, but not to a massive degree. You guys are humans. I'm fairly confident that if we had a left-wing Trump figure, there would be a left-wing MAGA. I know some people would say that it currently is the case. It is not the case. And I'll illustrate that with just a simple example. There's no left-wing politician who's above the law, who can do or say whatever, and the left is just gonna follow behind them. The left is going after Biden, they're going after Harris, they're going after Cornel West, they're going after Marianne Williamson. All of their folks are constantly being attacked by the left, right? So we do not have the same kind of thing like you guys have with Trump, right? Trump said, I want to get these immigrants out of the country. H-1B visas is a problem. Elon Musk pays him $200 million. Elon wants the immigrants. Trump is like, yeah, let's bring the immigrants. And MAGA's like, okay. You can't do that on the left, man. But that's only because we don't have a left-wing Trump. From what I've seen, the actions that you guys have taken, and logically, why would you guys be any different? You're, again, humans, products of the same school that these conservatives went to. It was a left-wing Trump, super charismatic and just leaning in on a lot of, culture war stuff. And then you got an entire left-wing media just amplifying whatever he said, and it's white nationalist, whatever, and whatever it is, right? Racism, everything is racism. I've seen how a lot of these progressives, how savage they can be in the same way that you can see conservatives being savage, right? Like how savage they are towards someone like me, right? Because I'm outside of their ideology. Right, their whole thing is advocating for the poor. So because I got a little money, all of a sudden they categorize me like I'm one of the 1%, right? And they got no love, man. I could be on the street, suffering, looking to die, but just based on where I am in terms of class, they treat me like I'm the enemy, right? That's the same kind of savage behavior you see in MAGA, right? The only reason you guys are not going out like how MAGA is now is because you don't have a left-wing Trump, right? You don't have a left-wing Trump that is also being protected and amplified by the entire left-wing media. If that happens, I'm sorry, man. The human nature that has MAGA, being MAGA, would have you guys doing the exact same thing. Some differences, of course, not literally the same thing, but ultimately, you would be just like them. The reason you're not like them is not because you're better, it's because you don't have a left-wing Trump, and you don't have an entire left-wing media in unison lining up behind that person. You don't have the entire Democratic Party. You don't have this entire monolithic structure like they do. That's your only saving grace. It's not because you're smarter, even though you might think so. Right? We're all just humans, and you are a lot the product of our education system, which is failing and falling behind. So maybe don't just focus on so much on your political opponents and do a little bit more introspection. I do a lot of introspection. I've done a lot of introspection throughout my life, and that's what's made me the person I am today. I didn't just naturally become this way, right? I spent a lot of time questioning my beliefs, my ideas, who I am as a person. Maybe perhaps Adam Mockler, Destiny, and others, maybe it's time you do the same. Because right now, in this moment, you guys have lost the plot. You have lost the plot. And the left, you're on a dark path. I mean, you already almost don't exist. Wake up.